Hey guys, it's Thunder here, and welcome to a definitive how to use tutorial for cheat devices for the PlayStation 2. This video will be covering all three of the major cheat devices that were released or in the North American region, being Action Replay Max, Codebreaker, and GameShark. I'm going to be doing it in that particular order just because it's alphabetical wise, so if you're only here particularly looking for a guide for Codebreaker or GameShark, skip to the time code shown on the video right now and make sure you have annotations enabled to go right to that. But if you're here for Action Replay Max, don't worry, because, of course, this is what I'm starting with first, of course. So, Action Replay Max. There's various versions of this released. I have a later version that's released here as available disc, because I do not have two options here that you may have an earlier version, which was basically like some kind of special like media player, which was used for like homebrew and whatnot, and then like some kind of messenger thing that would go to like Code Junkie's website for whatnot. Later versions took that out, but I would, if you're not worried about that stuff, because that was mostly obsolete anyways, it's best to get one of these later versions. You can tell if it's got like it has a blue and white disc that just reads Action Replay in a more modernized font. But anyways, for this particular version, you have, of course, Expert Mode, which is the main cheat list. You have Max Memory, which is a memory card manager, which works fairly nicely. It's very well. You have DVD Region X, which is basically allows you to play any DVDs from any region whatsoever. It's basically just a region bypasser. And then, of course, you have your usual settings where you can change things up, like sound effects volume, music volume, save changes automatically. Default view. The quick mode is a cheat code mode, but it only works for certain games, and they only work when you put them in the console, obviously. There's also a quick boot and full boot for DVD boot mode. The internet options, you can use it to update your code list, which will save onto your memory card. So if basically there's a game you want and it's not on there and you don't want to sit through doing the whole thing and whatnot, you can easily do it that way. So I'm going to just get into this real quickly. There's usually a bit of a loading time for this code list for loading up the code list itself, but I've already taken care of that. So, of course, here is your main list of games. You just go through. You have a whole bunch of games here that you can go through, and you just, of course, find the one you want, and then you go from there. But before I do that, I'm going to go just showing how you can add stuff. So to add a new game, you can just go into here. You can use the You can, of course, go into here to add stuff in, so using the D-pad and then the buttons that correspond to different things as shown on the bottom there. You can also plug in a USB keyboard, and it will recognize that to save you a bit of time. So I'm not going to actually properly add a game because I can't really do that. But basically, you would add a game, then you'll need a master code. Now, a master code is basically the main code that allows the functions for these codes to work, which is why it tells you to put in right away. And with Action Replay Max, it works in a series of 13 digits, basically 4, 4, and 5. And you basically just you would go online, look for the master code that you're looking for a specific game, and add it in. Now, make sure it is the code is put in exactly as it should, because otherwise you'll be told that it is an invalid Action Replay Max code. Sometimes it's a little picky with it, I've noticed, for a few games, but it usually tends to work out quite well. And of course, once you do add it, it will appear in the add new in the game section. And then when you actually choose your game for this version, particular thing, we're going to go with Burnout 3 Takedown as our sample game for the Action Replay Max. You get a section where you can add a new code, which basically works exactly the same way, like as so. And then, of course, again, if it's not correct, okay, please ensure that all lines are complete, yada yada. But then, of course, invalid Action Replay Max code. So, it works the same way. Now, to actually activate codes and use them, these kind of, if you get like some of these kind of like capsule things or folders, they'll basically have multiple options. Now, capsules, you can only choose one specific code. For example, I can choose it to the boost would never go below 1/4, or I can choose it to have max boost. If it's a folder, for example, you can choose multiple codes and activate them all at once like that. So there's basically stuff like that. and some will mention things like it may have like maybe somewhat sometimes may not have an exact desired effect. Of course, you can always, and it's interesting to play around with that to find exactly what you want to use. So one of the more interesting things that this has, you can choose to modify in any vehicle in the game. So for example, we can throw in a city bus to basically be the vehicle we use in a race. And you can also do like series modifier codes as well, or Siri modifier codes, which they misspelt. So we're just gonna go with these particular codes here. Of course, the boost codes, the extra turbo, the crazy crash mode code, some of the crazy crash mode codes, the speed codes, and to modify to the bus. Now, once you got your code selected, you can either choose to start game with codes, start game without codes, or just cancel. Of course, you want to start the game with the codes. So now it's going to ask us to ensure our game is inserted, so press OK. Now at the menu, you can actually just insert the game right away, and in most cases it'll automatically detect the game and take you to a specific code list. Sometimes it won't do it, so you're still going to have to scroll, but basically, if you haven't done it by this point, you want to make sure that your disc is inserted. So once you put in the disc, of course, all you got to do at this point is simply just press OK. The console will read the disc. I have an older fat model, so it takes a little bit longer to read the games. It saves the settings onto your memory card, as so, and it launches the game. Okay, so now we have Burnout 3 loaded up here, and of course, before I actually get into a proper race, I want to of course make sure to show off of course, the very important thing, and that's showing off a vehicle, because as we mentioned, we chose a car modifier option. So let's just go for a random USA track. And yeah, in some cases, you're going to have a bit of undesired effects with codes. It's just the common normal. You really gotta experiment with it. So we're just going to choose, for example, this custom compact. Now, we may be choosing it, but of course, as you will see in the race, it should change to the bus, since that was what we said. And so, sometimes action replay codes, as well as following what you will see for Codebreaker and GameShark, can sometimes create undesired effects. It's just, you're messing with the game's code, so it could potentially screw something up. So you just want to be careful with that. So there we are. We have now swapped over to the bus. We have infinite boost, as well as the extra boost, making our car go really fast. So basically, we're using a vehicle in an event where it's not meant to be in. So you can have fun destroying cars in a... Wow, that was something. Like I said, sometimes codes can create undesired effects, and it certainly is happening here. So I just gotta also show off. I gotta remember the code value here. I set it so it should be. Okay, this specific one doesn't seem to be working. Maybe I forgot to put it on. We're not going to worry, though, because as you're seeing, of course, codes, in fact, are working, so it's doing what we want it to do. It could just be because of the crazy effects that the game is having is why it may not be working. So just keep that in mind. So there you go. That's how you use Action Replay Max. Of course, it'll work with, there's loads of games that are on there, and like I mentioned, I recommend getting a version that has those two features removed. I mean, you may think that's a little silly to say, but again, those features were very obsolete, which was why they were taken out over time. And the reason to get the later ones is because they'll have some of the newer PS2 games that were made, or later PS2 games, and so it saves you all the time and memory card space for that particular reason. So anyways, next up we're going to be moving to the Codebreaker. Okay, so next up we have the Codebreaker. The Codebreaker, out of the three that I'm going to be showing you, is personally my favorite of the code devices, but all three have, of course, their advantages and disadvantages. But for me, Codebreaker was always the best because it had the most games, the most codes, and usually the best pass rate in terms of codes that work. I mean, as you probably saw with Action Replay Max, there's a couple things I tried to show off, but it didn't quite work. Of course, it could just be because of codes interfering with one another, or maybe just it didn't work properly. But it's, of course, you saw that the main ones of focus that I did want to show did work. But experiment with certain games. Maybe you might get different results. Maybe you might have them all working. I don't know. Generally, though, I wouldn't worry. So Codebreaker, this is the version 10 build that I have. It's the second to last one. There was 10.1. This particular layout was introduced in version 9, and it is by far and away the most common version of Codebreaker that you'll be able to find. So, if basically, this will definitely help you out. So you have 6 options here. You can, of course, start game, which we'll get to later. Select cheats, which is the cheat menu. Device Manager, which is pretty much works very similar to it did with the Max Manager in Action Replay Max. Codebreaker Chat, which is kind of really obsolete by this point. Options, which are of course the options and settings that you can go through with the Codebreaker, as you would have expected. And day one was excuse me, let me try that again. Day one was a feature added into Codebreaker that allows you to take a file that you got on like Codebreaker's now defunct website, and you could easily just import the entire cheat list of a brand new game right off the bat, and it worked quite well. It basically was the easiest way to put all the new codes for a new game without having to do it manually. And it worked quite well. Of course, though, we're going to just go into select cheats here. Now, of course, you have a major big list here. Now, for a bit of easier navigation, if you press R1, you can skip forward a bit. If you press L2, you can skip to each particular letter, L2 and R2, and L and R1 for a little bit. So, it works out quite well. Now, of course, there is a lot of things here. Now, you may be noticing that there is nothing of listing here that says to add a new game. So, how do you add a new game? Of course, as you may see it going down there, you press circle. Of course, you just get a little bit of a keyboard here. I think the USB keyboard does work for that. I think for all of them that I'm showing off here, it will work. So, I'm just going to put nah or something like that. I don't know. And the one good thing, too, with Codebreaker is if you tend to be someone who's a bit OCD, has a bit of OCD, and you like to have things in alphabetical order, Codebreaker does that automatically. So you get your game in there. Of course, you add a cheat. So like B12D or something as a joke. Then you press right, and you press circle to add the code value, which is a little bit different here. It's a 16 value code separated into 2 bits of 8. And this won't actually tell you if the code is invalid or not. So it may be why you may like this a little more in case you have that issue with Action Replay Max. You will not come across the same issue with Codebreaker, sorry. And if you don't need to keep the game, you just press triangle to delete it. Now, for this particular code device, we're going to use Gran Turismo 4 as an example. This has a lot of codes in it, and I seem to have all. And it seems to be a bit weird on how this is working right now. I've never particularly seen that. Which of course, it's been a long time since I've used this sort of stuff, so it could just be having a bit of a freak out to say the least. But you just press X for the codes you want. Now there's no like folder or capsule stuff that was prevalent. That was there with Action Replay. You just choose your codes and you go from there. So I'm not entirely sure why it's doing it like this. This is very strange. So there we go. That's how we're gonna fix it. So we're gonna enable code. We're gonna go with 1 trillion credits. We're going to buy items don't decrease credits. Have all cards purchasable and cost $1. We're going to have acceleration 16 times fast. Press R1 and X for ultra nitrous boost. We're going to have idiot AI, and yeah, those will be the ones we'll go with. So we're going to choose that. If you have changes you've been made, you want to save, we're just going to press no because I'm not going to worry about that right now. And now, of course, we come to start the game. If you have an older PS2 like I do, you may have noticed in the settings there, it had it set to automatically eject, so it just automatically ejected for me. And once you got in your game, you just press X to continue, and it'll start the game. Now this is Gran Turismo 4, so it will take a little bit to actually start, but it will work, of course. So you just press that, and it starts the game. So as you can see here, we have 1 trillion credits, which is always nice. Which pretty much means you can easily buy anything. Now, one of the other things I activated was every card was available purchasable for $1. So to show that off, for example, we're going to go into let's just go over to Japan, and we're gonna go into the Mazda dealership. There it is. We can go into the classics, and you got here a Mazda 787B, which usually costs a lot of money. It's $1 right now, so we're gonna make a purchase of that. And now of course, there you go, $1 to buy this car. So this basically is very helpful for if you want a certain car, but you're trying not to break too much of your bank. $1 to buy a car. To buy any car, in fact. Does it do it for this? No, it's still regular credits for parts. I guess they didn't make one for that. Maybe they couldn't figure it out. Anyways. So there's that part being shown off. So we're going to just quickly do over here is, let's go just to the power and speed. Because there's, of course, the acceleration and nitrous boost and all that sort of stuff. Actually, wait a minute, hang on. I was about to do that, but then I realized I have to show off, of course, the more important thing, which is showing off the idiot AI, because I did turn that on. And I'm just going to go in the arcade mode and do it here. So, I know this video isn't very well formulated or professional or all that kind of stuff, but my intention was to just more make this a bit of a demonstrate, you know, just demonstrate what you can do, what these will do. So, I'm actually going to go to the original circuit. I'm going to go to that test course because it's the best way for me to show off the speed of these cars. So, I'm going to go to that. And we're just going to we're just going to go into let's go just for consistency, let's go back to the Mazda, and we're going to go over and choose that 787B, which is at the very end here. And of course you can just choose that if you want to. So just to really show off the idiot AI, we're going to put 10 maximum difficulty. We're just going to let this load up, as it normally would, of course. Excuse me. So we got our roster here. So we've got a 125-point race, which would basically mean it's a rather fairly difficult race. And here's a stupid AI. They don't move. I guess the better term would just be dead AI or not functioning AI, but you know, idiot AI is a little more catchier. So basically, they won't do anything. Now, 16 times acceleration. The car gets up to rocket speeds at a ridiculous rate. And now for the fun code, R1 and X, and we blast off with incredible speed. This affects every vehicle, so you actually do see the AI moving. In fact, we just managed to break through the map because of how fast we were going. This is it's just ridiculous fun. And in a lot of cases, you manage to break through the map at a certain point in the track. The game likes to automatically finish the race for you for some reason. Not sure why that is, but hey. So there you go. That is, of course, the Codebreaker. And as you see, I like the layout of Codebreaker a lot. There's a lot of codes, a lot of games, and it's just a lot of fun to use. So that only leaves the GameShark left to go. And finally, we of course now have the GameShark. This particular build is one of the last builds that were made. I mean, there were updates to this particular version. This is a modified version 5 that was repackaged with Mad Catz, and then they just renamed it like version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. This is... I don't know which particular version this is. It might be a little bit of a slightly earlier one of those three because 2005 and 1.3 came in around 2007. So build info, you just press hold select to find that out. But I'm just showing this off because people might be a little bit more interested in this later ones because it, of course, has more codes, as you can see down there below. So, the options here, you got, of course, start your game. You got auto cheat mode, which you just would choose by putting in your disk right away, which we're not going to do. We're just going to show off the expert cheat mode, which is the cheat list that you're kind of used to seeing already if you saw the Action Replay Max or Codebreaker. And if not, then you'll see, because if you've just skipped here and all that kind of stuff. Of course, there's the memory manager and game saves, which is the same kind of deal that you would have gotten with Codebreaker and Action Replay Max. And then, of course, online updates, which you update your code list and all that sort of stuff. So we're just going to go right into, of course, the expert cheat mode. Now, to go through the list here, of course, you can just hold up and down like normal. If you want to go through a little by letter, you press the L1 and R1 buttons. If you want to go all the way to the end of the list, you press R2. And if you want to go all the way to the beginning of the list, you press L2. Simple enough. So we're just going to quickly press R1 here because we're going to use Juiced as our example game. I did actually try to record this earlier, but it didn't really work out, so I guess maybe I screwed something up. But just to be safe, I'm going to use Juiced here in case. And plus there isn't too many things here to show off anyways. We just have Infinite Nitro, press L2 for max cash, and unlock everything for Arcade and Custom Race. So we're going to choose those three, and once you choose it, if you go to there, the colors just show that it's working. Also, I guess since I showed off, adding a code here is the same. Adding games and codes the same way. You press circle to add a new game. You got your new game. You press right. You can add new code or new cheat by pressing circle. You press right again. That's how you add the code values. It's again a value of 16, so technically GameShark codes will probably be compatible with the Codebreaker because they use the same kind of values. Basically a value of 16 separated by 8 for each. So it might work, and of course, if you don't want the game in there anymore, you can only do this with games you add, by the way. You can just press circle and choose to delete. So anyways, we're going to go back up to Juiced. Of course, again, for this to work, you have to have these flashing like the colors like this. Of course, you have the master code or the must be on code is listed here. They all the code devices have it because it needs to have that in order for the functions to work. Anyways, so you can choose to start the game with cheats on or not, but what we can do, so you can just do it there as a bit of a shortcut, but what we're going to do here is we're just going to go back here and, whoa, jump cut here. Okay, so apparently I guess trying to add a new code thing, it makes it try to save the cheats list, I guess, and that's what caused it to not work properly, so it thought I wasn't activating the cheats. So now I know at least what was the case. We're still going to, of course, stick with Juice, though, so I'm just going to go back like I was trying to do here, and we're going to start the game. It'll just tell us, it'll do the auto eject like it did with the Codebreaker, which I don't know. I guess you can't change it with this one because I don't see any settings anywhere. But we're just going to let it do that. We're going to put our game in. We're just going to press X, and it'll eject the disk back in. It'll read the game, and yeah. You get the idea by this point. So what else do I really have to say about that? Okay, so we're back in the Juiced here. Basically, we loaded up the codes. Now, you may see a lot of money there, but as I just pressed L2, you see that it went to 99,999,999. Now, of course, I was using a different code device, I guess, originally, and they used a different way of doing it, but I just pressed L2, and there's all that sort of money and whatnot. But we're not gonna stay in this mode here. I guess we have to save, or else it won't let us exit, which is a little silly, but whatever. Should at least give you the option of no save, but please exit and all that kind of stuff. But of course, there's probably a reason why they may have not done that. Anyways, we're gonna go into the arcade mode here. Here's when it didn't particularly work, even though it should have. Yeah, again, I must not be getting really lucky with these codes today. I don't know what's going on. Regardless, I'm just showing this off as guides for getting these working, so I'm particularly not affected. There's one code that we do have to make sure works, and if it doesn't, then you won't have seen this. So let's just go with this RSX on the circuit here and go. Okay, so we're into the race here, and the one thing, of course, I just want to show off. There we go. Whilst one of the things may not be wanting to work properly, at least the nitrous is working fine, which is good. So no matter what happens, no matter how long we press it, we can just keep going with nitrous for as long as we so desire. So yeah, this was a bit, of course, even when you crash your vehicle this much, you won't have to worry about any nitrous leaks because it'll never go down. So basically, if you just want to really just get through the game easy and everything, that's how you do it. So yeah, that GameShark one was a little bit harder to get working for the reasons I've already mentioned, but hey, it works in the end, which is the important bit. So anyways, there you go, guys. That is the in-depth tutorial on how to use the Action Replay Max, the Codebreaker, and the GameShark. I've made various videos in past years on this sort of stuff, but I thought let's just make one definitive video that takes care of all of that kind of stuff, and just to make it a little bit easier for everyone, so they don't have to go searching for various videos just for one code device. One video for all three of the main ones released in North America, and you're set to go. So anyways, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. In terms of codeless questions for certain games, if it'll include the game it'll realistically include the game if the game itself was made before the specific release of the cheat disk that you may end up having. If it doesn't have it, then of course you just gotta add it in yourself. That's just how it works. But regardless of that stuff anyways, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.